And we're live. Welcome to The Hook. We are going to preview America's Rugby Championship 2018. I am live with Tosan Tomway of ViralRugby.com. How's it going, T?
And good. And the head coach of the Wakanda RFC. Long live Wakanda.
Join the movement, Wakanda Rugby Union. The shirts are out. Check it out, ViralRugby.com. Third rendition of the Americas Rugby Championship as a first side competition for everyone but Argentina.
That's tough.
Well, I mean that just says, hey, we have to raise our level.
Correct.
Going into like the sides before, I think we just sort of preview each match. The real big stuff about this year is the United States is the Americas one, so we are qualified for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. But guess who that puts in a bind?
Well, Canada.
So, in conjunction with, which I'm sort of annoyed, I wish they would have had to do a two-game series outside of this window, but I guess World Rugby was like, whatever, they're already playing once, so add another. So the America's Rugby Championship actually starts this weekend with the first leg of the two-match series of Canada-Uruguay qualification in BC Place on Saturday. It's on ESPN3. So if you're trying to figure out where to watch it, you don't have to watch it on the Rugby Channel. It's on
You're petty for that.
Well, I mean, I was trying to watch the women yesterday.
Me too. I couldn't find them anywhere.
Well, it's on the Rugby Channel.
Now.
The feed was going out. Right? The feed was going out. We were playing a really tough match against the England women, the first one.
28-24, banger.
And the last 2 minutes, the feed cut out.
Jesus. I haven't seen it yet, but Hope Rogers was stunting.
Hope Rogers destroyed a Japanese girl. Just going to point that out.
It was just tough. It was tough.
Then we went out and had a tough one against New Zealand, but we had enough points overall to push us into the championship bracket. So I mean, you're watching them right now. But so that's good for the ladies. Want to see them rebound from yesterday and just crush it the rest of the way.
Well, like you say, you live to play another day. If you're in the quarterfinals, you live to play another day. Yeah. So that's the key.
Yeah. So looking at the first week of the ARC, you've got Uruguay, who just did a warm-up match against Houston last weekend. They had about I want to say 2/3 of their pros with them. 3 guys are with them now in Canada who weren't released in time. And all of Canada's pros are with them for the moment. But in order to do that, they had a Rule 9 camp where they flew the entire training squad to England. So Rule 9, for those uninformed with the World Rugby regulations, requires all professional clubs to release their players.
Yep. Okay. I didn't know that had a specific rule number. Yeah. I just knew it was a thing.
Oh yeah. It's sort of like the UN. There's rules for everything. So Rule 9, and it requires their players to be released, but obviously it was much easier to fly all of Canada to London somehow than to get 6 players released from their clubs for them to leave England.
I I'm about to say, who pays for that? That's insane.
I don't know. All I know is,
how did Canada get that money?
I don't know. It's expensive. You're shifting circadian rhythm 8 hours, and then you're flying back this way, which makes it a little less tough on your body.
Yeah,
but it's still an 8-hour shift. I mean, I
just can't wrap my brain around that waste of money.
Yeah, I got nothing. I really don't. So Uruguay comes up. They have a tough match against the Houston SaberCats. Shout out to Go Cats. Go. And then 3 pros come in and fly into Vancouver to train with the rest of the overseas guys. They play tomorrow. And this is to qualify for Americas 2. It's an aggregate victory. So whoever wins on points, you either win on points or you win.
We squeaked through last World Cup.
Yeah, you win on points or you win aggregate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you win them both or you win on aggregate points. And right now, you have guys for Uruguay coming out of retirement of international play.
Mm-hmm.
That are still like kicking it overseas, crushing it.
Making their money, doing their thing.
And they're like, hey, we'll get you guys qualified. Let's go. We ain't going back to repechage. Then I'm done.
Right.
But so they're out for blood. Cats gave them a little bit much. What I don't know is, what does Canada look like? Their back line, their back 4 is the best it can get. Aaron Carpenter retired from Canada. Most capped Canadian ever, I believe. And then they lost another fly half. So basically, I think pretty much all of their fly halves are banged up somehow, to include the guy who's starting, Connor Braid. And so it's going to be interesting. You've got their first choice front row, but they're all, Hubert Bidens and Ray Barkwell, pretty, they're older dudes. The interesting selection here is Evan Olmstead not playing the 5, but playing at 6. For those that know, Evan Olmstead and Nick Civetta are basically in competition with each other at Newcastle for the position, and Evan's sort of been beating him out at Newcastle, but Nick definitely beat the snot out of Evan during the summer series. Okay, just pointing that out. You've got it's about the best. It's the best lineup that Canada can give you. Pretty much, based on who's available. Uruguay is like they're stacked. They're ready to go.
They're targeting that too.
Yeah.
And I think that now the question I have for you is: are we going to be looking at a strong then stronger team of Uruguay, or for the 2? Because we're talking about 2 matches, right? And we have a recall that we have to deal with here.
So that is the difference here is, so Canada and Uruguay clubs can't mess with World Cup qualifiers.
Good.
They can't. So Canada and Uruguay have all of their pros that released for this series. So this weekend and next weekend. After that, though, it's not a World Cup qualifier anymore.
Right.
Talking to some Uruguay fans, they expect every single overseas pro gone for the rest of the tournament. And everyone who remembers playing in Montevideo as a visiting side is very tough. So, and the USA travels to Montevideo this year. So, something to think about. So if Uruguay is able to either win or be within 5.
Yeah. I'm about to say that because they don't have to. Let's say, remember how ugly that tie was for the US that year? Uruguay gets that result the first time, they're going to the cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
That type of that result or better.
Yeah.
That Canada's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them pulling it out.
If they don't win by 15, if Canada doesn't win by 15, I think they've got a problem. And
right, because
if Uruguay draws or loses by 5 or less, I think Canada loses by like 20 down south.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's the other part. They're going down south for the second leg.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's you want to win big in Canada. I don't know, this team that they patched together, never knocking these boys, you know what I mean? But you got to be honest, like there's not a lot of I don't have a lot of faith in what Canada's going to be able to do from their continuity and their form.
Yeah.
And they just haven't shown anything.
They didn't have a good autumn tour.
Yeah.
All right. They had a rough summer. To be honest, we should not have tied them. Because I want to say you saw us at our best and you saw them at their best in San Diego. And the difference was like 40 points. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Autumn under a new head coach, Kingsley Jones, was, it wasn't really good. It wasn't horrible, right?
Well, that's kind of the thing I was kind of alluding to, because remember I was saying I was nervous that we haven't had our coaching leadership installed.
Yeah.
It takes time for systems to gel and for players to figure out, for coaches and players to figure out if they actually fit where they are in these systems.
So we'll get into that when we specifically talk about the US, but you may be surprised about my opinion. But I think just with I think Mark Anscombe was right in his assessment of where like the overall talent was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like what his pool was after his like top 40 dudes. Like he's like, it's going to be rough after like whether you fire me or not. And then he ended up having, depending on who you read, there was like a player revolt, and he just didn't get along with, his bosses either. But then let's look at what Canada's done. You can't bring in more players. Jones, he built up the Dragons, high performance Pro 14 side in Wales, and then was running he was basically a Welsh selector. So he knows. I think he's more of a long-term hire. To go into just rebuild their entire program. They also have another assistant from Wales on loan, whom I forget. Maybe he was only there this fall, but a former French head coach has been sent to assist Canada as well as a high performance analyst.
They bring in like the triage team, like
So
what are the IVs?
It's like you bring in all these people to sort of like, hopefully you can coax 0.5% out of these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, where's the money coming from? And I'm not calling this like racist or anything, but Canada's part of the Commonwealth.
Correct.
So Uruguay, like Argentina, is not part of the Anglosphere, and I would say Eurosphere.
You're right. Latino countries.
When it comes to rugby.
Correct.
Everything that Uruguay has done has been, with the help of foreign coaches and stuff. But not like this. It's like, so their game, because the reality is TV rights with Canada in the World Cup is the pie is bigger than with Uruguay. So, Canada's a lot richer of a country. And one thing I've learned is that World Rugby is all about the money. All about the money. Otherwise, Ireland would have won the bid because they went out there and they told the world that they were going to reduce ticket prices by a third. And I was like, for 2023, like that would have been epic.
It really would. Guaranteed sellouts.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to sell out either way, but I think more access of tickets to more people.
Yeah.
You're not going to freeze out the locals. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I think Uruguay is known for their dominant scrum. Smaller guys, undersized, but they
tackle.
They scrum, right? And then
they scrum and they tackle.
They don't like their tackle rate is sort of excessive. Like they are accurate. And you saw
they play a lot of defense. That's part of they make a lot of tackles. They have a high tackle count, high tackle completion percentage, but they play a lot of defense in test rugby.
Yeah.
That's the big deal though. It's like, yeesh. But they sustain possession. Things happen.
And I think the biggest difference here, again, with everything is going to be experience. And you look at the amount of caps, the cap average is like 45 or something stupid like that. Pretty high.
Exceptional experience, no fear of the big stage.
So if I'm picking, they just got to win against a tough team in a tough test against Houston, which I think was a little bit surprising for a lot of people. The spread was much wider.
Really?
Yeah, people were talking like 30 points. And it was 8. I mean, 18th ranked team in the world versus a club that's in its current form has only been together like 2 months. I mean, a lot of guys on the back end side of, that franchise have been together for like 5 months. But you're talking about dudes with years of experience playing, with each other. They know the smell of each other's farts, Or that's what I'm talking about. So I think Uruguay has the edge on Canada in their aggregate series and even maybe up north. That's what I'm thinking. Going into Brazil and Chile, Brazil, if I had this up, you guys don't have a roster published for a training squad. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to bypass Brazil. Brazil. So let's talk Brazil a little bit. So they're a tier 3 country like Chile in this, but although they may be a tier 3 country, both Chile and Brazil are like knocking on tier 2's door when it comes, because tier 2, the tiers you are in is not just about where you rank. The tiers you are in is about the revenue your union also has.
Correct.
And so, if USA Rugby, filched out $50 million in revenue next year, whoa, we could be a tier 1, right? Pretty close. Get pretty close. Fiscal responsibility and money that you can reinvest in your development programs. But so they're pretty much knocking on the door. They have full high performance programs. Chile 7s, dude. Those are some big guys.
Really?
Like they are good in sevens. They're I think if they're not the next team to qualify for the World Series, it's going to be rough because like at Silicon Valley sevens, they were thumping. It was a development tournament, but it wasn't an A-side tournament, right?
Right.
And they thumped some people pretty like sideways. Yeah.
So they've gotten serious. They've gotten serious about their rugby.
Yeah. They're pretty serious now, especially because of the ARC. I think the amount of resources devoted by the union has shifted a lot because it's a visible
tournament.
This is a visible tournament. Everyone gets caps. It's not an A-side developmental tournament. It's developmental in some sense because before this, how many caps could we give out a year? Like 5, and now we're giving out like 10 or 12 for the year. So for them, it's a developmental tournament in a different way because they have to play just bigger countries that are all the time. So they have to devote more resources and select better players and, go forward. I think New Orleans has a Chilean national team player, Nicola Bursic. He played in pro rugby, played a lot of 6 and 8 in pro rugby and with his club down south. But he plays.
Where's Sebastian Calm from?
So Nicola Bursic is an American. Right. He is from Torrance, California. But his parents moved down there when he was like 12.
Oh, okay.
Sebastian Calm is a Chilean who has declared for the United States on residency, and I'm wondering why he's not in,
Good question.
In this side, because the point is,
I'm a big fan of his.
So he just qualified in, I think, the end of November.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like the way he plays a lot.
But this goes into, hey, you only need one, right? One cap. He's captured. Right.
And you
can't go anywhere else. I know, like, in the back row, we're kind of stacked. It sucks.
True.
Right? But he can play lock, and he's, 6'6". And,
beast.
And we are not we have like 4 locks right now that I would consider like set, like Civetta, Brakely, Landry, and Jensen. And Landry's starting to play a lot of 6. So, I know Cam Dolan plays lock, but he's going to play 8 in this series right now. But moving on from where we were, which is sort of like a segue. Chile's throwing a lot of resources at this. I think they're still kind of stuck. They're gonna, be like, well, unless they might. I don't know. I just don't know about Canada. Like, I don't know if they're turned around enough. If Uruguay does what I think it's going to do, I don't know if Kingsley Jones is going to be able to turn the ship around, for the rest of the series. And but Brazil, heck, we had trouble with Brazil 2 years ago. Like, we got embarrassed and lost by like 1 or 2.
It was a mess.
It was a bad game. People were calling for Mitch's scalp, but we had to understand where the national team was at that juncture.
Right.
They just fired the head coach. We just had a really rough build up to the World Cup, and had a really rough World Cup itself. So, did Mitch know he was going to be the head coach at the beginning of December? No, because they fired Tolks right before Thanksgiving. And then he had want to say his contract was signed like the first week of January, which gave him 5 weeks to somehow figure out who the players were. And like, first things first, he dials up Todd Clever because he knew Todd. He's like, I know you're not playing. I think this would happen. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I thought he was right. I know he was back in the pool.
Yeah.
Scored 3 tries.
Yeah, I was like, hey, Todd. Because what was it? Wiles had just retired from international play.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Chris Wiles, retiring from the Saracens this year, going direct into Wolfpack lager manufacture on force. Side business, have your own brewing company. It's kind of a nice business venture to start. If you ever want to send Wolfpack lager to Viral Rugby and the Hook, we take cases. Thank you.
Yep, I'll have a bottle sitting right here, chilling. You know.
But you know, they needed leadership. There needed to be a transition, and that has been done. Blaine Scully is now not the de facto. He's the known captain, and we're working on younger guys to develop different vice captains out there. Last year James Hildebrand, vice captain to the side. Nate Augsburger has captained the side. We're developing a lot of different people in leadership roles so that we can. One of the things that I know Mitch did is he installed a very player-centric system where players were required to own things.
That's a big deal.
So that first year, Brazil, they beat us. They did not beat us last year. We exacted revenge harshly. Beat them like 50-17. 50-7. So it was like, oof, how we should be playing. I think Brazil because they're like an emerging nation or something, they're able to get an infusion of talent based on residency rules for like less than the standard 5-year rule or something that's coming. I don't know what's going on. It probably shifts because the residency rule has now changed to 5 years rather than 3. So I think instead of first, I guess somehow you were able to gain residency if you were under 20, you moved and were there for a year and represented them in the under 20s. You were then like given residency by World Rugby or something like that at the time. I think that has shifted a little bit because of the new law that shifts residency requirements from 3 to 5 years. But they have a bunch of Brazil qualified Kiwis hanging out that go off to New Zealand academies now that once they're qualified. They're also trying to get a Curry Cup side started. As well as 4 semi-professional teams in Brazil as well.
Wow. Well, I'm impressed.
Yeah. So things are moving forward for Brazil. But all things being equal, I think the bottom is going to be a fight between Chile and Brazil, unless Canada just sinks. And I have that kind of fear, actually. They have Canada has a lot of players I like, but the union's jacked up there, just like it's jacked up down here, I guess. Not
True.
Depending on who you listen to up there, a lot of things are messed up. More so than what we've talked about. Like it's hard to get into. It's kind of disgusting. But at least they're on TSN all the time. They don't have to fight for exposure at all.
Yeah. like these fight for exposure, just I don't know what happened. Somebody's draws and a twist here in the U.S. about rugby because we shouldn't have to fight this hard for sports exposure. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like.
Well, it's. I mean, to be honest, it's about strategy, right? So they started RIM and then they launched the Rugby Channel. In the middle of that, the first ARC was on ESPN3. So ESPN already owns their own streaming service, right?
Right.
So you are now fielding a competitor.
Go figure, right?
In the midst of that, NBC, who is a major network partner who wants to work with you, is in the midst of developing their own streaming service in addition to their own subscription service.
Right.
NBC has knocked out a major deal with World Rugby that will last, I think, 7 years. And they will have all World Cup events, all under 20 Junior World Championship events, and all Women's World Cup events, and then also all Rugby World Cup Sevens events. So this summer, the only place you're able to watch Rugby World Cup Sevens is on NBC, both streaming and linear. Most of that, right, I think, will be on their new Olympic channel for sevens, because it's an Olympic product. They're all in, you know. So now we have a competing platform, right? Versus two network partners that also have their own platforms. So that's how that's why we have to fight for exposure.
Yeah.
And the difference between NBC Sports Gold and ESPN3 and the TRC, Rugby Channel has currently 11,000 subscribers. So their reach is only 11,000.
It dies right there.
Yeah. NBC Sports Gold. I mean, I couldn't really tell you.
Probably 10 times that.
Yeah. You know, probably 10 times that. ESPN3, which is where 2/3, 60% of the ARC will be on ESPN3. All the USA matches this year will be streamed linear. Will be broadcast linear on News and 2. I don't know who made that deal. If the Rugby Channel decided to, hey, let's lock this in. But I know the ARC is an international product owned by Americas Rugby, which Americas Rugby isn't really a thing. It's Sud America Rugby and Rugby Americas North in partnership. So I don't know. Without seeing the paper in front of me, I couldn't tell you if, you know, the guy who runs RIM talked to the broadcast people at ESPN3 or at ESPN or not. But getting a 2-hour window on ESPN2, ESPN News is sort of whatever, you know, like it's just kind of a thing. It's sort of an extra channel, right? But ESPN2, the Deuce, like getting some of our ARC games live on that's big, because even though people are cutting the cord and getting rid of ESPN by the thousands, the reach is still, you know, 80-some million or something crazy like that.
Like people ringing that alarm like it really means something. It really doesn't. And also ESPN's chasing segments now. They're not chasing broad grabs. So they were always going to lose some people.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know what what feeds into that is, so pay $25 for Sling, right? Versus the 150, or no, was it? So DirecTV's bottom bracket was like $60.
Mm-hmm.
So now you pay $25 for Sling, and you get ESPN and ESPN2.
Mm-hmm.
Good to go.
Get really good internet, and you're good.
Yeah.
Like, you know. Mm-hmm.
So, and then the ESPN is also on all the other streaming services, PlayStation Vue, YouTube TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I mean, the reach is there. It's not. If Americans want to watch rugby, guess what? It's on in the middle of the day on a Saturday when it's February. Nothing to do. So there's gonna be a contact sport for Americans to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps me out because we're both media.
Exactly.
But
gives us something to talk about.
Yeah. So, you know, we've talked Uruguay, we've talked Canada, we've talked Brazil, we've talked Chile. Let's talk Argentina 15.
Okay.
So it always hurts me a little bit inside that we have this competition that everyone's getting capped in except them. And so we don't, us and Canada apparently do. Uruguay did last year. So they capped their guys for the Argentina 15 match. I don't know why. It's weird. Yeah, we didn't and Canada didn't because they're not capping, so we're not capping, which makes sense to me. But so Argentina 15, the guys that they were originally going to bring, they're a little banged up. To give everyone some history, first year Argentina 15 came in with a lot of U20s guys, and not a lot of senior capped dudes. Second year, and the USA took a draw, which was great at the time. It'll somehow 2 wins, a draw, and 2 losses got us second in the tournament.
Yeah.
And last year we win the tournament based on bonus point after drawing Argentina 15s in the final match. We had a try bonus point that they did not have. So we are now the defending champions. And, you know, if you look at the side that we'll talk about in about a few minutes, you'll understand why I think why I'm out for blood on this one. So Argentina 15 faces off against us right out of the gate in Carson, California at StubHub Center. I'll be there. And you know, it's huge. Originally it was supposed to also have a Super Rugby match in front of it, but
and they were like, nah.
They're like, no. You. Like,
they're just like, nah.
I'm fine. You want our money? You do this, you ain't gonna get our money. Don't come back.
True.
So this time we get Argentina 15. They're bringing a more senior side about where they were last year, which is about some uncapped guys and a bunch of guys that have a decent amount of caps that are sitting outside like the first choice team for the Pumas. So they're bringing pretty strong, but some of the guys that they were going to bring are banged up. So, I mean, we're talking Argentina, so it's not, if there's a concern there, I mean, we have a new head coach. We had an interim head coach in November. So I want to say it's a push. Their head coach has been there, ready to go. Their chemistry, these guys have all played with each other before. Their chemistry's there. So when it comes to the players, we're about on the same level. The difference is how will we respond to our coaching staff, and this gets into, you know, the United States now. we are defending champions. We had a little bit of turmoil over the summer where John Mitchell announced that he was taking a great deal. And I mean, dude, would you not like just say, I'm done with a tier 2 country? If a Super Rugby franchise promises you a coaching position and a board member seat.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on now.
Like, and it's in the country you live in. Like,
right.
I'm annoyed with how it went down, sort of.
About to say, but who would have made a different?
Yeah, I mean, who would have made a different choice? Because that was. I mean, we were wanting him to take a pay cut and move his family here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, hey, I'm not taking a pay cut, and you still want me to take a pay cut? Fine. They're going to pay me more money, and I sit on the board of directors and can have greater influence. Yeah, I'm gone. But so he's a Kiwi. Kiwis aren't nearly as, New Zealanders aren't nearly as systems based as South Africans are.
Right.
But coached in South Africa, and he talked about with the All Blacks and talked about, with the Lions and the Western Force back when he coaches them. People say, oh, he talks about his win record so much. I was like, yeah, he won a lot of games. And he talks about building a sustainable model, and most of that has to do with player culture.
Mm-hmm.
And where the players own their performance and they own the leadership aspects of stuff. So, I spoke with Will McGee this week, actually, in an interview with him. And I also spoke with Sean Davies last week in an interview with him for my podcast, The Earful of Dirt. You can check them out on Twitter at Earful of Dirt, on SoundCloud and whatnot, shameless plug. But, talking to them, it's like, how were you guys able to deal with this coaching drama? Coach announces that he's gone before you even play a match during the summer tour. And then they announce who the next coach is, but he's not supposed to show up till next June. In August, at the end of August, right? And then you get an interim head coach in Dave Hewitt, who most people are thinking was probably going to coach 7 games, which takes about a third of Gary Gold's prep time for with the team for the 2019 World Cup away, which makes you wonder, hey, are they throwing this out? But Gary was able to execute a successful exit strategy with Worcester, bringing in Alan Solomons, who was in 2006 World Rugby figured something was wrong here and appointed a high performance director, and he was like the Mags, before Mags, right? And when Alex Magleby was actually still playing sevens, and eventually would become head coach of the sevens team a little bit after that. So, to appointing a South African that knew the landscape as his successor in Worcester. Interesting, right? So, and that allowed him to get over here and only miss 2 games. So we're going to see, I think, we're going to see the fingerprints towards the end of this year, towards the end of the ARC. But, he's also a system, like he's a South African systems guy. And apparently he knocked it out of the park at the NDS, talking about building like sustainable cultures and high performance cultures and everything. But I think one thing that Mitch did is created such a level of ownership by the players that they just needed, purpose and direction. because they already had the motivation. They already had the ownership they had an identity as the USA Eagles. So mostly a new coaching staff takes them and they go 1-1 in a series that I sort of feel like we were set up to fail. And we end up coming out ahead. End up crushing Germany, sort of saw the difficulties early on. Germany played really well. And then, athletes are going to athlete, and our fitness took over. Our ability to just hit them took over. And then we, play that really set us up well for Georgia, which I didn't know how that was going to go because Georgia had just lost by 7 points to Wales. So I sort of thought we were going to get wrecked. But I guess the summer match against Georgia, actually, both those matches were really telling because they were both really close. And then Coach Hewitt, who was our interim head coach, apparently, a lot of people external to the program really loved how he handled himself overseas. Especially the people at U.S. Army Garrison Wiesbaden, where the team trained. They're like, this guy's the interim head coach. He needs to be the head coach. That was the reaction that our team got overseas. This is amazing. These guys, they talk to kids and they talk to soldiers and everything. And they had a great time. So
good PR. Where does he fall in the whole situation now?
So following after that, he got he's no longer the interim head coach. He applied for and was hired as the Southland Mitre 10 head coach.
Cool.
So he left. He was an assistant with Crusaders for a long time, and he's now the Southland head coach in the Mitre 10. So good for him.
Yeah.
And
nice happy ending to that story there.
Yeah. 1-1, players are feeling good. Keep training, keep pushing hard, and now we start off the Americas Rugby Championship with guess what? Guess how long of a camp we had?
What was it, a week? 72 hours?
So it started on Wednesday morning. So we will have had a 10-day camp in San Diego.
Huh.
So we will have had pretty close to what I would like for a camp before a tour, which I think will allow us to play really well. Also, as a part of that, holdover from the fall tour is Greg McWilliams as the attack and backs coach. Okay. Sean Pittman.
Always a good, I'm about to say that's a good talent to have in your coaching group.
Yep. Sean Pittman, set piece and scrum coach.
Okay.
Is retained. And then bringing back into the fold for the senior team is Scott Lawrence, the former head coach at Life. His main capacity is the second side USA Selects head coach currently. So he will be Scott will be coaching the defense during the day, and at night he will be selling for Oracle because he is a software sales guy now, making loads of money. Pretty much the same coaching staff, minus the defense coach. With MLR kicking off, I think Dave Williams was needed to, continue pushing his boys in camp. Who served as the defense coach this fall during the autumn series. Because, I mean, all these MLR teams in camp, you know, in the middle, like the league contract started on 3 January. And you're basically, if any of the coaches are asked to perform national duty, they're out for like 8 weeks. They're out for like most of that period. So it really wouldn't work out that well right now. Maybe in a few years, it will be a little bit different. You know, when our structures are in place. For Denver, for Glendale, really wouldn't. I think he has set a culture there to where the players know what is expected, to where he could probably, you know, they have a robust staff to where he could probably just check in every couple of days and then do a video conference with his coaching staff. And they can just move forward, provided that the league calendar doesn't shift far to the left next year. But yeah, so mostly the same staff, new head coach, and coaches that all of the players are familiar with the addition of Scott Lawrence. Like he coached a lot of junior All-American guys a couple years back when he was at Life. And, you know, this summer with a lot of the dudes in the USA Selects that are part of this this camp. So everyone's familiar with the coaches. So I think this sets us up really well for what will be our toughest matchup. And that's Argentina 15 next week.
Right.
The next tough matchup really for the US, we're going to have most of our overseas pros back. TD Lamosatelli, our top loose head. He's finally fully healthy. He's played a bunch
that was going to be my question. How healthy is he?
He's made several long appearances for the Saracens Storm, which is the Saracens A-League team. And he's been on the bench behind Mako Vunapola.
Okay. So they have full confidence.
Yeah. So this is like his time to wreck. And then you know, other props behind him. We're like, you got Tony Purpura.
He's back.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that.
You remember that, right?
Oh man. So they're like, they call up, they announced that they call up 2 dudes, but they actually called up like 6, right? It's like, what the heck is this dude doing over there? Why isn't he even on the active roster? Like, what? He's on vacation in Georgia? Is that what he's doing? Jeez.
Right. Oh.
Like,
sunny, fun-filled Georgia.
Start a fucking winter, man. Jeez. You know, going into that, so Tony Purpura is behind TD. And then I think Angus McClellan has been called up. But the top 2 choices I have for tight head are going to be Dina Waldron and Patty Ryan. Right now, I think Dina Waldron continues to get so much time with London Scottish in the RFU Championship that he's just developing very, very fast.
Right. I think this is really, let's not lose sight of what this tournament's about. And that's right now we're like 12 months out from, how long are we out now?
So we're basically 12 months out. So if we put this in a defined terms, the full-on warm-up for a World Cup year lasts the whole year, right?
Right.
So our World Cup warm-up starts next ARC.
Correct.
In 2019. So we are a year away from the World Cup warm-up. So we want to start setting in our squad.
Right. We should have by now identified within 2 players who the guys are going to be. And now it's about getting them together and them gelling if we're going to have any success.
Well, that's where we should be.
Right.
Not where we are. I think we're close. I think we're a lot. I think after the summer tour, we'll know. Because Gary, his reputation is as a coach and as an executive, talent evaluator, it's, second to none. And he's taken, I don't know, he's taken a lot of hard jobs. This might be the easiest of the hard jobs that
of the ones that he's taken.
When you think about that. So just to, put in the back of everyone's mind there. Then, geez, now I feel really dumb. So we play Argentina 15. It's going to be the toughest match we have.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing about this ARC is we have 3 straight matches at home. So we are playing all of those matches in California, which is really nice for me, except I can only go to one of them. I would have tried to gone to the third one, which is at Fullerton Titans Stadium, which is so for Canada, we get them. Oh man, this is how I smell blood. Think about this. So we got Argentina. Talk about that, right? Canada, Sacramento on the 10th. So they'll have had 2 tough tests. And I want to say our depth is better. We're going to get our guys for like 2 weeks. Like TD's probably going to get recalled. Like a few of these guys are going to get recalled to their professional teams. It's just going to happen, right? But our depth is definitely there. And so Canada's going to have come off the heels of 2 tough matches. We play our toughest, and then we get Canada, then we get Chile. The interesting one is going to be, I think our toughest match our 2 toughest matches are really the ones that have been our toughest, is we have to go to Montevideo this year. And I wonder, since they're losing all their pros after the second Canada match, I sort of, it's a trap game. Like, I want to say we should win by 15. But
depends if we show up.
Yeah, we got to show up, and we have this knack for not showing up there. And then we play Brazil at Brazil, which is, I mean, we crushed them last year at home, but we laid an egg the first year we played them there, which was also our first loss ever to a tier 3. For all those that want to know. So, but yeah, I think overall the squad, talent and experience were pretty good, because you got TD up there, you got Dino up there. The one thing that would have been nice is if Eric Fry didn't get injured before the autumn tour. Would have been nice to have him. Hooker, we got, I mean, the first choice is Joe Tafate, like Mighty Joe. It's just him. Then it's about really determining like the second choice guy between Peter Malcolm and James Hildebrand. James is based in Australia, so right now it might be a little tough based on availability. But then they brought in Dylan Fawcett, the butcher, from Old Blue, New York. Interesting nickname. I haven't seen him play hooker since he played for pro. He played 8 with almost all the time with Old Blue. They only named 2 8-men on this squad. Henko Hamishais and Cam Dolan, who I think is going to be he's going to play 70 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Henko can slide in at 6 often because they only named 2 6s and 2 7s. Like Aladdin is like, so the 7s they named were Tony Lamborn and Son Wuching, who hasn't been capped. I look forward to seeing him play because I think he can be a very talented player. Notably missing from the 6s, which, that's okay because Ben Landry's been playing a lot of 6, so he might see the field a lot at 6 as well. Aladdin Shermer. Oh, man, I forget who the other person was. I should just bring it up, but we gotta roll through this. And then the back line is we're kind of stuck because AJ broke his leg, but he'll be back for the June tour, from what I understand.
Right.
So it wasn't that bad of a break. Bringing in this Will Hooley guy from, who was in England under 20 and qualifies via his grandmother. So this is the equivalent of a 5-star recruit at back in the day at fly half.
Mm-hmm.
And Will McGee, I think, is the de facto, like, he just works so tough. He just works so hard, and he's been pushing AJ. Like, AJ's just gotten better with Will McGee behind him. I think Will McGee is going to be the guy, but I think we're going to see the emergence of Will Hooley. Which will be great. And then at scrum half, we've got an interesting call up. A name I hadn't really heard as far as Eagles contentions was Devereaux Ferris. So we've got 4 scrum halves in camp right now. And it's Sean Davies, who I think is the starter.
Mm-hmm.
And a name that I would have liked to have seen called up is Holden Youngert. Holden Youngert and the other guy from the Americas Pacific Challenge, Ruben de Haas, whom has been called up. He's in the Cheetahs Academy in South Africa. I think Ruben de Haas is extraordinarily talented, and he's like 19. So I think our scrum half depth has improved tremendously. There's a lot of talent there. Backline, moving to inside and outside centers, you've got Marcel Brockie at 12 and Bryce Campbell at 13. That's like the most set. It's like a marriage back there. They're pretty much set. They're ready to go, and they're gonna hit some people. And the interesting thing was, I think Mikey Teo was named as a wing, and they named I think they named 2 fullbacks, and one of them was Blaine Scully, who's the captain. And then blindside wing was it Josh Whippy, also is going to be an open side wing. He's on the squad. I wanted to see him cap because apparently he is amazing. I saw him play in the APC. I think he's just going to get better. I don't know why he wasn't in Georgia. Supposedly there were some visa issues. He's a Fijian national. Apparently, Fijian nationals have trouble getting into Georgia.
Apparently. Yeah.
So I think we need to get him a passport that is from the United States. USA Rugby, admin, let's go. But, and then, yeah, I think so. Nate Augsburger was named as a wing, and along with Ryan Matjes. So I think our backline's full of killers.
Yeah,
it's about working in the chemistry up front, as it always seems to be. I think we're at the point where as long as the coach is able to provide the purpose and direction, the systems for motivation and ownership are in place.
Well, which is good. I think you nailed it when you said that, getting the continuity right up front, because that's going to determine how much ball they get. And against the Argentina 15, actually Latin American sides are fantastic at making the mess of the breakdown. So if they can slow the ball down, that's where we're going to have trouble. So it's going to be nice to see how the guys respond to that type of heat at the breakdown. How well are we clearing, and how much ball is Sean or whomever is going to be at 9 is going to be able to serve, and how good is that ball going to be? Are we going to be doing a whole bunch of kicking or getting caught behind the gain line? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're set up now with the depth of who we've brought, which is more than we used to have in the ARC. Especially with our hardest match really up front in Argentina 15 rather than on the back end.
Right. I would have rather seen it on the back end, personally, knowing that we just haven't had enough time together.
Well, I think I would always want to see our hardest match at the end, but the issue is, our overseas props getting recalled, 2 weeks into this because of the Six Nations, Yeah. And that's just is what it is until MLR gets going and USA Rugby becomes a tier 1. Because when USA Rugby becomes a tier 1 and we're producing rugby athletes that the Premiership pays tons for, we'll sort of be the guys that are making really good money overseas are always going to be held, by their club to only be able to play a certain number of national matches per year. So, Tosan, you got anything else?
Nope, nothing else for me.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I think we're really set up to have a very successful tournament.
I think so. And I think we need to define what success is, though. And I'm wondering what, the program has defined as success for this tournament, given what this is year 1 of a 2-year process,
So let's go quantifiable result. If we got the same as last year, but lost on points to Argentina based on the other situations going on in the other unions involved, I would call that the grand slam.
Okay.
The home run. If we take second, but are say like 3-1-1, that's a triple. Like that's successful. If we take third and we get embarrassed against someone we're not supposed to we're supposed to beat, that's not a success.
Right. I think I'm thinking the direction you are, but I'm going a bit more granular in terms of what do our possession stats look like? What do our scrums look like? What do our lineouts look like? What do our attacking phases look like? How long are we playing with the ball in hand? What type of territory we are having game to game?
Now you're getting into the weeds.
No, of course. You know what I do, man. I'm a coach. I got to do that. Because growing forward, we're still feeling out. This is still a feeling out part, especially for that pack. So that we want to know who the guys are, so that when it's time to gel for the World Cup run, that's when that's going to happen. This is the stage where we put those seeds down. We know the kinks, we figure them out. If we leave with a trophy from the ARC, beautiful. I think that's something that we always want to win. You don't want to play this game to lose. But I think that if we do those things right, we're more likely to win anyway. But I think those are the things I'm going to be looking at. Well, how does this team look? How do they look together? How do these centers look together? How do that type of stuff?
If we win the whole thing, if we go 5-0, but we just look like trash, that is not a success.
Right. And not even just in terms of like winning ugly. Nothing wrong with winning ugly, but like,
well, I mean, like where you body language, team chemistry.
Yep.
You know, if we have poor body language and poor team chemistry, but we win, then it's not really a success. If we
because what are we taking to the next fixture? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for things that come from this that add to the momentum to the next fixture.
Yeah.
We have to be building momentum successively until we hit World Cup stride.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to try to accelerate and sustain.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
I'm with you. And with that, we both got to go. So Aaron Castro with the hook, Tosan of VIral Rugby signing off.
Take it easy.